Hi everybody! Today I'm going to be colouring in this book. It's called The Women of Tua by Lisa Johanna or Johanna. We're going to be colouring this lady that's on the cover and trying to use the same kind of colours that's on the cover, because I realised that the day this video is coming out is going to be St Patrick's Day, and I thought, well, this picture seems to fit quite well with St Patrick's Day with a lovely Celtic looking lady there, so I'll try and keep her looking the same inside. And I also realised that I haven't really tested my Arteza or my Castle Arts pencils on Amazon paper, because this book is Amazon paper, so I'm going to give those a go and see how they work on the Amazon paper. And I thought I'd try and make it into a colour along, maybe 2 or 3 parts, starting with the lady herself doing her skin and her hair, trying to test the Arteza pencils for that, and then moving on to the background and maybe using the Castle Arts. We'll see how it goes. But I thought, yeah, we'd start using the Arteza pencils, my normal skin combination. I'll just show you that before I start. I might add in a couple extra darker browns as we go along, and we'll see what she's looking like. We've got Peaches and Cream, that's A200. We've got Apricot, that's A111. We've got Burnt Ochre, that's looks like A202. I do use these pencils a heck of a lot, so the numbers are all wearing off. You'll have to forgive me. Hazelnut Brown I've got for my shadows, and I like to use a bit of lavender to put a bit of purple tint into the shadows as well, so I'll be using that. And for her little blushy cheeks that I like to do, I have picked out salmon pink, but we'll see how that goes. See if I find another pink that works better. I've also got both the white and the cream that I might use, that I will probably use for blending. So yeah, let's start and see how we go. And for skin initially, I like to give a kind of a very light coat pretty much all over with the peaches and cream, because that helps with the blending. If you're going to use a white with a blend or a blender pencil, it helps to have a very light coat of a colour underneath, because then there'll be some pigment underneath to help with the blending. Unless we're doing it the same as the cover, we do have some skin showing inside this circlet here. Just keeping it really light, giving her a very light coat of the peaches and cream. And I apologise if you can hear the windy weather in the background. We are having a bit of a storm over the last couple of days. It's been really windy, so if you can hear any of the wind howling in the background, I'm sorry about that. And also, as usual, as soon as I've started filming, the cat has decided to get himself up and around about, so you might hear him. Hopefully he should be quiet though. I'm not even sure you'll be able to see this on camera. I am going very, very lightly with this pencil. I will go in a little bit later and try and work out where my shadows and stuff would go. This is just a very base coat. Most of the time these days I use markers, the Ohuhu markers, as a base for my skin. I haven't done skin with just pencils for quite a while, but I seem to remember last time using markers in an Amazon paper book, it's went streaky. It was a little bit streaky. So I think the Amazon paper can, depending on what batch you get or whatever, it may work with markers, it may not. So I didn't really want to take the chance, and I thought, yeah, I'll just go with pencil. It'll give me a bit of practice anyways. Best to keep in practice with these things. I shouldn't get too reliant on my markers. Although they do, to me, they do help quite a lot with doing skins, especially as it's usually quite a big area to fill with what I colour anyway, because I do like to colour portraits. I do want to keep her skin pretty pale. She's going to be rather a Celtic red-headed lady with pale skin. So I don't want to go too crazy with my shadows, but we'll see how it goes. Usually when I'm colouring, the picture tends to take on a life of its own. Usually ends up quite different than how I imagined, but we'll see how she goes. I don't usually tend to plan when colouring, so I have some ideas. Maybe like for this one I've decided to copy the cover or use that as inspiration rather. It won't be exact, but sometimes I have a very vague idea before I start and things just evolve as I go along. I'll have maybe an idea that, oh, I'd like her to have black hair, and then do her black hair and see what evolves after that, which usually ends up completely different than how I imagined. It's a fun process. Okay. We seem to have our light coming in this direction from the right. If this line here is a shadow line, let me just check the cover. Yeah, the light does seem to be coming there. Let's give her the shadows, first layer of shadows by nose. This is still the peaches and cream colour. Now we've got our base coat done, I'm just mapping in the very basic areas where I'd like my shadows to go. If the light's coming that way, there'll be shadow behind her hair. They get fairly dark up here anyway, which is probably a good thing. And the shadows, marking where our nose goes, and the nose would cast shadows either side. But it will be darker this side because of the way the light is going. But in the hollow where our eyes are, we'd have a darker shadow. And I like to leave kind of a highlight along the edges of the faces to give more contrast when I put in the dark shadow behind where her hair will come there. There'll be quite a dark shadow, so hopefully when we've left that little highlight there will be more of a contrast. Under her chin. If the light is coming this way, there'll be shadow on the edge of her neck here, and under her chin. I'm hoping that this will be fairly kind of unedited by the time it comes out. This is, I'm hoping it's going to be practice for me doing colour alongs, longer ones, more detailed ones in the future. I'm going to need practice with thinking of things to talk about while I'm actually colouring, so So I have tried doing them and adding the music, but the last one I did, which was The Way Home, there was issues with copyright claims on the music, even though it was from the YouTube audio store, the audio library. I had 2 claims on the music, so I had to cut out like two 2-minute segments that were claimed as copyright, and there wouldn't have been any like issues with the video. Said, oh, the owner has said it can be used, but I just don't want any complications, so I just cut out the 2 minutes, or the 4 minutes rather, the 2-minute segments that they said were copyrighted, just to keep the peace and for a quiet life, really. So yeah, I'd rather not have to use music, and I might stick to, if I do a speed coloring, I might stick to the original music I started with, which was one that my son had found and given to me that he uses in his YouTube videos. So yeah, I know there'll be no problems with that one. Plus it's a bit of a pain to try and edit together like 3 or 4 pieces of music if you're doing a long video. If you've got an hour or more, you're going to be editing videos, audios together, and yeah, my editing skills are still not the best. So I'd rather do color alongs where I talk, but I'm still pretty new at it. The whole public speaking, I don't know. Is it public speaking when it's on camera? I don't know. But I'm not too used to it. It's not my forte, so I'm going to try. And please feel free to mute me. If you just want to watch, then yeah, go ahead. I don't mind. Or if you have any suggestions, as always, feedback, suggestions, very welcome. Getting near to be done here with our first lot of shadow. Put quite a bit around this necklace. This is quite an orangey peachy colour, so I'm hoping it will look pretty good once I put in the emeralds, the green of her necklace. I might end up doing gold the easy way. We'll probably see how I'm feeling by the time I get around to that. There's not a heck of a lot of it on there to show you how I do it with pencils. There we go, against the last little bit there on his shoulder. Maybe a touch there. A little bit there. Okay. Light is coming in that directions. Alright, then I'll move on to the next layer, which is the Apricot A111, I think we said this was. And just indicate where the next layer of shadows would be. Behind her hair, behind these crystals. There would probably be little touches of skin tones inside these crystals, but they might be a tad too small to really make a lot of difference. this edge of her face. I think that was on the cover, but I am just using that as kind of colour inspiration more than following it to the letter. I'm going to give a slight indication of a chin there. And there'll be more shadows on this side as this side is in the shade. Or facing away from the light rather. But as I said, I don't want to go too crazy with my shadows. I want her skin to be fairly pale. I'll try and do the skin, the whole skin, because usually I would do the face, concentrate on the face, get that done, and then go back to do the skin. But by then, sometimes I forget how I actually did it. So yeah, I'm going to try and be a bit more organized, especially as I'm supposed to be showing you guys a good way to do it. So set an example, I think. I think there might be more layers on top of that first base layer of the peaches and cream, but we'll see how we go. Not exactly sure how many layers this paper will take. But so far, yeah, these pencils seem to be working pretty well on the Amazon paper, to be fair. But this is only like the second, third layer, so we shall see. I don't usually use many layers, to be honest, so we might be okay. Okay. Moving up now to burnt ochre. Yeah, it's starting to get a little bit harder to layer now. But hopefully these colours will be able to be blended later on. Just start to give it a bit more definition now. On the side of the nose there. Let's put a bit of shadow there underneath where our nose curves downwards, so that bit probably be in shadow, and she's looking down. Yeah, makes sense. We're definitely having a few issues with layering now. But we'll make the best of it. once I blend with the whites, this should look a lot more smoother. And that should hopefully help with giving her a pale complexion that I'm going for. Just putting in the shadows of the headdress there. Still leaving that highlighter on the edge of her face. A bit more contrast here. This will be furthest away from the light, so her neck would be making shadow here. Some shadows in behind the jewellery. I'm hoping we'll be able to go back in with our apricot and the peaches and cream to blend that out. But seeing how the paper holds up. I don't particularly mind the Amazon paper too much. I know some people will really hate it. If all else fails, you really like the picture, you want to colour it in, but you hate the paper, you can copy it onto your own paper, which I do occasionally. But it's just nice to see the pictures actually in the book, I think. So I do like to try and work with the Amazon paper, and usually I use my kind of harder pencils, my cheaper pencils. I know these are not particularly expensive. They are classed as budget-friendly pencils, I think, Arteza, but they're the more expensive ones I've got. Okay, let's try and blend this out with the... This is the peaches and cream. Trying to soften that burnt ochre a little bit. Okay, let's try bringing in that salmon pink. Okay, I'm going to move in and do her cheeks now, and I've decided to go for the watermelon pink, which is A402 instead, because I just went to try and do it with the salmon pink, and can you see that? And can you see that blue? I don't know if the camera will pick it up. That blue dot. That is a streak of blue that seems to be going right the way through the core of the pencil. I've tried sharpening it, I've tried scribbling to try and clean it off, but that blue is staying, so that must be actually in the pencil. Not good. So instead, I'm going for the watermelon pink, A402, and we'll give her some blushy cheeks with this one. You may notice I've erased a little bit there, and that's because I went in with my salmon pink and ended up with a big blue line across the face. That's what I get for trying to film pretty much live. But yeah, that watermelon pink I think will do quite nicely. Just to give her a little bit of blush for her cheeks. I might add a little bit on her shoulders. Usually looks quite good. And there we go, a little bit of that watermelon pink. Back in with the peaches and cream just to try and blend that. That's working quite well, I think. So yeah, if you do like to use lots of layers, this paper would definitely not be the best for you. I would much prefer working with the markers, so sometimes it can be streaky, but it is possible to correct that. If you're going to work on top with the pencils, it's possible to correct a little bit streakiness. Blending cheeks on the nearer side. I'm going with the white there. Not blending quite as well as I would like. A bit more shape to her cheekbones there. That was the burnt ochre. This is peaches and cream. This is the cream. Just a bit more blending. Maybe on her forehead there where the light would be hitting. This is also more of a kind of a yellowy colour, which I think works pretty well if I do use the lavender. This is the Lavender A409. If I do use the lavender in the shadows, it works quite well to contrast with the shadows. The shadows are purple, the light is kind of a yellowy cream. Okay, we're just moving down her cheeks now. On the other side. Blending with the cream. Trying to leave more white on this side and more of the paper showing through, because that would be the side in the light. I'm not sure I've quite done as much as I wanted to. Might erase a little bit on her cheeks there. bring that cream in. Okay, this is the lavender. Just adding a little touch. I try not to use it around the eyes too much because she might end up looking like she's been in a bit of a scrap. Got a few bruises going on, but no, we don't want that. So around the eyes, I like to use more of a brown colour. This is the walnut brown. And as usual, I've concentrated on her face and forgot to do the skin on the rest of her body, but I will go back to that. And if I do forget how I did it, I do have the video to go back on and have a look. Working a bit more shadow on this side of her face, because the light does seem to be coming from her right on the cover, so I'll shade this side of her nose a little bit more. Where's the apricot? Here's the apricot. I'm managing to get quite a few more layers than I thought I might. Probably because they're light. Let's bring the apricot down that side of her nose. Noses are a little bit complicated. Sometimes it's hard to imagine where the highlights and the shadows would be, but I think that's gone okay. It's going in down the side of the cream there. I think we might come in a little more. That's better. This is the hazelnut brown. Those shadows a little bit more. Where her hair would be falling across her face, that would be in shadow. So, oops, we forgot her ear. There's her ear. Peaches and cream, and there's a base going in with the apricot. Again, this will be fairly much in shadow because her hair is, it's behind her hair is falling over it. Finally, a hazelnut brown, same order that I've done on her face. Okay. The paper is, I think, getting near the point of saturation now. Can fit in a lot more layers of shading, especially on this side, so maybe I'll just blend that off with the white. It's not looking terrible for Amazon paper, I have to say. So at least I know I can use these pencils. You just can't really build up the layers as much as you can on better paper. Needs to have a bit more apricot. Where's that? Yeah, I don't think we're going to get a lot more colour onto there. Can blend out her chin a little bit more, going back into the peaches and cream. We don't want it to look super obvious. We might need to do a little bit of a shadow under her lip. Bottom lip would be making a shadow. She has turned out slightly more tan than I was aiming for, but that's cool. I'll roll with it. Make sure this side of her neck is quite a lot of shadow. That was the peaches and cream just. This is the hazelnut brown. Let's reinforce that shadow under her chin. And then with the apricot. Let's blend that out of the way. Yeah, I wouldn't say it's too much of a struggle working with this paper, but you do need to change your tactics a little bit, I think. I do want to try out my Castle Arts pencils, maybe use those for the background. See how well they work. They are a little bit harder, I think, than the Arteza, so may work slightly better. Because as I've said, I usually use my harder pencils on this paper. Cheaper, harder pencils. Okay. This is peaches and cream. Just trying to have less less of the white paper showing through on this side. It's supposed to be the slightly darker side. Okay, I'm going to try and leave a bit more of the white paper up there to add a bit of cream. It'll hopefully look as if the light is reflecting there. And it should hopefully work well with the rest of the page, because I like to do my ivy leaves with the inside being like an olivey green and the outside being more of a cream colour and kind of blending together. So hopefully that will look good with our creamy colour skin. Let's see if we can blend that out. I know the leaves are not like that on the cover. That's how I like to do ivy leaves. So I'm just going with what I think would be fun. I like the way that cream's working there. More of a kind of pale complexion. Put some down her neck there, and on her collarbone. Let's go into the darker colours now. This is the apricot. I wonder if I should write the pencil names on paper like I've seen other people do. Knowing me though, I'd forget to put the paper down when I pick the pencil up. And you'd still be like, what colour is she using? Sorry, I do tend to get carried away. I'm going to go back to her face in a little bit. Okay, we're looking pretty good. I might put in some of the purple shadows down here, because like I said, I think it looks good when you're lighting. Yeah, that creamy colour for your lighting to be more of a kind of a daylight kind of yellow cream. It looks good if you added a little bit of lavender to the shadows. Not too much, as I said, because you don't want it to end up looking like she's just gone through the ringer. You don't want it to end up looking like she's been in a fight, so just a little touch is enough. That's maybe too much. Skin under that, underneath the mushroom. Missed that with our first few layers, but we'll just go in and the mushrooms are in front of her, so they should have more contrast. Because in general, the more contrast anything has, like the more difference between the light and the shadow, or the more, if you use contrasting colours like green and red or yellow and purple, that will draw attention. And will make things, bring things forward, make them look like they're more in the foreground. Just adding in shadows for these necklaces. And the crystals. And oops, let's give these one shadows as well. Going over a collarbone there. Just a bit of a drop of shadow to make it look like it's raised up over our skin. That's a walnut brown. I'm just blending with the white because we've already got a layer of cream over there. So let's try over here and then that apricot a little bit more. Yep, that's working quite well. I think this side looks like it does have the light hitting it more than the left, which is further away. Well, her right, my left. I do apologise for not being very good at talking. Hopefully I'm getting across what I mean anyway, and you can just watch if you want. See what I'm doing, hopefully. Apricot. Usually, whenever I have colouring time, it's usually when I've got the house to myself. Son's in school, other half's in work. I've worked part-time, so I have a couple of days off a week. So other half would be in work, son's in school, and I have the house to myself to colour. I don't generally have anyone to talk to but the cat, and he's asleep most of the time. So I'm not used to chatting while I'm colouring. Hopefully that will change. I wanted to get back into her skin. As I do, been looking at it, realise this side of the face needs a bit more shadow. I need to carry on that with the hazelnut brown. I need to carry on that shadow where her hair comes. On the shadow under her crown, headpiece. Just having a very pretty dark shadow there on the side of her face, just for a bit of contrast. Blending that out with the apricots. I thought you can't really put a lot more shading on there. The paper is starting to react. The wax is building up and you can't really add any more. Haven't done too badly though. Very good few layers out of it. Leave her skin there for now. Hey, for her hair, I found a colour combination that I actually wrote down quite a while ago. A couple of years ago, I think, and I don't think I've used it since, so I'll have another go at it. This is what I used for kind of auburn red hair. Apparently Espresso Brown A308, Cinnamon A304, Passion Fruit Red A212, Burnt Ochre, as before, yeah, and Yellow Ochre A109 for highlights. But I've also picked out, in case I need them, the Ginger A116 and the Blood Orange A114. But I'm going to see if my old colour combination still works. We'll see where we can get with that. And I'm just going to start with the darkest, with the Espresso Brown, to go behind her. Starting with the darkest areas behind her face. Last time I did use this colour combo, it was on pretty good paper, so I have no idea how it will work here. It does seem odd to me to have the passion fruit kind of red colour in there, but we'll see how it all works out. Whether past me actually knew what she was doing. I'm just making some extra kind of hair strokes. It's a fairly small kind of area of hair, so I won't go too crazy with the kind of locks of hair. I do love colouring hair. Especially red hair, I really like it. Looks like I might need to find a darker shade to go right into my shadows, maybe a little bit of black even. But we'll see how she works out. It's going to be the darkest shady area, so trying to add quite a bit of this darkest colour, Espresso Brown. Okay, we'll do that a little bit for. I'm going to add a touch of this passion fruit. It seems like a A bit too red to be using, but I'll add a couple little touches because that's what I wrote down on my little colour combo book. I'm guessing if I did use any, I blended it in and didn't use too much of it. But this is a journey of discovery at the moment. Okay, a little bit of that one. And cinnamon. Oh, it is blending all right with cinnamon actually. Hopefully when we go over all that with the lighter colours. Okay, hopefully when we go over that with the lighter colours, that will blend together into a more red hair kind of colour combo. I think I may need to add in a touch or two of the orange. This is the burnt ochre, which is the same colour as we used on her face. So hopefully it'll look different because it's being used with different colours. Not toned down so much. And there we go. I might add in a little touch of that blood orange around these crystals because they're going to be green. And the orange to contrast quite nicely with those. And this is the yellow ochre. What I did write down was a little bit in the highlights. I think, yeah, that definitely needs to be blended in with the ginger. Ginger A116. Going over it all with this ginger colour. Doing a little bit of blending, hopefully. That's the espresso brown. This side of her face is supposed to be in the shadows. Not entirely sure how much of a flame red we're going to be going for here. being as it is green that we're gonna do the crystals, maybe bringing in a bit more of this passion fruit colour. And then blending with the cream. Bring in a little bit of burnt umber, and a little bit more dark shading. I'm trying to stay away from black. I did think at first maybe I would use it, but no, I'm going to stay away from black, I think. For the lady anyways. This is a bit more of a passion fruit. Yeah, that's not looking too bad. So I'll carry on like that for the rest of her hair, I think. This is the Espresso brown. I'm especially adding that in the bits where her hair is, as it's curving, the bits where it comes out, kind of curves out, are the bits where it would be getting the light, so that makes sense. And I do want it to be quite dark around where that earring is, so we can make the earrings show up. Behind this look there, be quite dark as well. Coming up to her face there, so we do want to have a bit of a highlight so that her hair actually stands out from that shadow we did as it goes over her face. So we'll try and leave a bit of white there, maybe the yellow ochre. And this will be casting shadows. Doing a few more hairlines there, kind of separating the locks of hair just to get more interest. That's the darkest, Espresso brown, passion fruit red. Again, I don't want to use tons of it. Her hair is more towards the orange side than the red, orange and red. It is obviously exaggerated. It's not a natural auburn kind of hair colour. But this is a fantasy kind of lady, so I'm going with it. Plus it should work well with the green once we get as far as to do the crystals. So okay, next is cinnamon. Yeah, but cinnamon really is blending well with that red and knocking it back, which is what I want it to do. That's good. How are we going here? Seem to be twisting here. This lock of hair has that piece coming along the top, so we'll put our darker colours underneath it. Just so it looks like it's blowing in the wind, I suppose. Do a little bit of shading with that cinnamon as well. Right, this. Give it a little bit of a highlight towards where the light will be. We have the burnt ochre. I usually go in and add a few white gel pen highlights whenever I do hair. Not totally realistic, it's just what I like to do, so I find it fun, so that's what I do. And that will cover up these kind of messy edges I've got going on there. I'm not the neatest. Okay, and the other cows for our highlights. Let's get a bit darker in there where all our hair is. Kind of a big area of hair there, thick area of hair, so that will be all come together. And I went in with the ginger, didn't I? Going in for most of it with the ginger. Again, that's calming down that kind of fire engine red. Passion fruit, is it called? Yeah. Going over it with the lighter colours is calming it down substantially. Again, she's supposed to be a fantasy lady, so it doesn't have to be a totally realistic hair colour, but I'm trying to go with what's on the cover, so she's Celtic red hair. little bit of the blood orange. And darkest burnt ochre. Mainly just to define these locks of hair, put in the shadows behind her ear. Just give it a bit more of a three-dimensional look, really. Oh, we forgot the bit behind her earring. Same kind of order. And then the darkest, because it is tucked away behind her ear and her earring. Kind of emphasising where those locks of hair go. And I'll blend a little bit with the cream. Still trying to leave a few little white highlights though, because I'm going to go back in with the white gel pen and pick those out. That one would be lighter as it's inside, and this one would be lighter, the one on top, because it'll be further away from the light. If the light's coming this way, it'll be light, but not as light as the front. This is a little bit of the passion fruit again. In darker areas. I tend to go with where I think it would look good. Like just adding in a few white highlights on her hair. Mainly the strands that would be the nearest, kind of the nearest to us. Just a few little highlights I like to put in. Not too many, otherwise you can go a bit over the top. But just to show that her hair is shiny. And there we go. And that's a nice contrast to the darker areas as well. Alright, so on we go. That's the espresso. Moving on to a little bit of the passion fruit red. Cinnamon. I may cut this a little bit because the method is the same for her whole hair. We'll just be keeping to the darker shades on this side, trying to make it look as if the light is coming from her right hand side, or our right hand side rather. So this side of her hair would have more of the lighter colours, the orange and the yellow ochre. But mainly it's using the same colours, which I will add it to the description below. Now we're onto the yellow ochre. And leaving some little white highlights. to go over with the white gel pen once her hair's done. And as we come further towards the side with the light, and obviously further towards the top of her head, there will be more, it will be getting more light, so we'll be working with the lighter colours more. Into burnt umber. This is the ginger. Really does work on turning down these more brighter shades, I think. So past me almost got it. This is the cream, just blending those colours out a little bit. Without fading them as much as the white. And they are pretty warm tones anyway, so I think the cream works quite well to blend them. I think I've gone a bit dark with the edge of that now, so I'll just add some white gel pen. And here where her hair crosses her face. This is burnt ochre. This is the espresso because coming into her where her hair parts here. Because coming into where her hair parts here, the darkest part would be where it's coming in towards her scalp there and coming up. And the light would be hitting it as it starts to curve back downwards. So we'll blend that out more. The ginger. I'm sorry, there's a bit of a jump there. My tablet cut out for some reason. But again, I've carried on this side of her hair the same as I did there, the same order with the colours. I've done the espresso brown, the passion fruit red, and the cinnamon. I'm just going to go over with the burnt ochre now. Like I said, we're keeping with the lighter colours on this side of her face because this is where the sun would be hitting it. Okay, let's see yellow ochre. Trying to map out where these highlights would be, but there would be hopefully a lot more white this side. Although mostly here when on the outside, underneath where their hair is all behind the main sweep of her hair. Behind here would be darker. So our highlights would be on the outside here, where the light is actually hitting it. Okay, yeah, tone that down slightly, going in with the ginger, especially in the bits that are underneath other kind of locks of hair, and under here where it's behind her main sweep of her hair, behind her head. Here it will be darker. So we try and tone down those colours to push them back a little bit. where her parting is there, I'm just going to go in there with some of the flesh tones. I'll put a little bit of the apricot just to show that there is skin. There is skin under there. There we go. And then blend her hair with the cream. A little bit over there hasn't been shaded as much, so make sure we go over there with that burnt ochre. Separate out the locks of hair a bit. Okay, and I'll add in a few of the white gel pen highlights. More on this side because it's the side where the light is coming from. Alright, let's not forget our eyebrows, which I have been known to do on occasion. That's the espresso brown. Tiny little bit of the passion fruit red. Cinnamon. A little bit of the yellow ochre, I think. ginger. And some very, very slight highlights, I think. And just to finish off her face before we call it for a day, we'll do her eyes. She has green eyes on the cover, so that does look nice with red hair, so I'll go with that. This is Dolphin Grey A003. Just putting a very light shading of grey into her eyes. Just a shadow where her eyelid comes down there. Let's give her some green eyes. Let's have a look what greens we have. Right, we're on the cover. We have a very, very slight ring of kind of a goldy colour around the pupil, so go with that and put that in. And then that was the yellow ochre. This is jade green for a very first layer of green up close to where our eyelids come in. Going down into moss green. Going to blend that with the cream. Again, not a very natural shade of green. We are going for the fantasy kind of eye. Right now we've done the colour, I'll fill in her pupil and her eyelashes with the black. To emphasise her eyelids a little bit more with that burnt ochre. And a little touch of the watermelon pink with the little tear ducts. With little tear ducts in her eyes. But we had the white highlights. I like to do two, big one and a little one, and then a line through the shadow that we drew. I find it makes the eyes look kind of realistic. I like to do it anyways. There we go. For her lips, let's try the watermelon pink. I think I might add a few more of the browner shades to it though. I want it to look a little bit more natural. Adding a little more pink there, her shoulder. And sometimes that goes quite well, and yep, seems to be working quite well. Might help to make her lips look a bit more natural as well. Okay, I'll go in with some of the darker browns there. This is the burnt umber. Try and leave a little highlight along the bottom edge of our lip there as well. That helps it to stand out from the shadow we put underneath there. Let's try a little bit of the cinnamon and then blend that out. Need a darker line in the middle, but need a darker line through the middle there, back to the espresso. A little bit more of the pink, I think, on top. And like that way, and if we blend that with the white, blend that with the white. That looks pretty natural, I think. Just add in a couple of white highlights. There we go, and I think I'll call it for part 1 there. Please leave me a comment if there's anything you'd like to see me improve, then yeah, hopefully I'll see you all again when we can move on to part 2, finish off her jewellery, do the background. Thank you for watching, everybody. Take care, see you in future videos. Bye.